Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers.
So we're here for the third billing of anime, and let you go through the shelves or the ones that you kind of
How lucky am I you let me
to look at the nicer ones that we kind of hadn't seen. And you went with one that you'd got me, I think it was last Christmas, I believe.
2 Christmases ago.
Or was it really that long ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure it wasn't?
No, because last year I got you that Bebo soundtrack, Bebo Bobo
Oh, that's
soundtrack.
right. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, so it was, I think, but I remember you got it and it came through the person and
I don't know
accidentally.
why I let you open it.
Yeah, I don't know why, because, it was a specific shape and everything, the Blu-ray case, but...
You got it basically as an early Christmas present, didn't you? Because I was like,
yeah,
oh, well, now
just
you know
forget
what
about
it is.
it. Just forget about it. It wasn't the main one, but the film is called A Silent Voice.
I'm really selfish, though, with these, because you kind of give me a couple of options when you go on your Christmas list, and then I read the back of them and kind of go, oh, which one would I like to see? And then I get you it.
That's fair. So it's called A Silent Voice, the movie. I don't know what the movie really signifies. Makes it sound like it's from a TV series or adaptation of, like Super Mario Brothers the movie or The Simpsons.
I feel like you need to do your research.
The Simpsons movie.
When we reconvene, that you can tell me that.
Oh, I'll try. So the film is by a female director, I can tell you that much. So that should be
interesting,
because normally I associate it just being like a male orientated. It'd be interesting to see how female approach to it, I guess. It seems like something that seems what I've sort of looked at on scoring online, like quite high on IMDb and such. So
the artwork looks nice as well.
It does, yeah. From what I see on the cover, yeah. Certain style. I haven't really encountered. What's her name? It's Naoko Yamada. You're thinking. I know what you think. You think of that dinosaur, Galco. Yeah, she's called Naoko from that.
Yeah.
From the Netflix show, yeah.
She turns into a dinosaur whenever anyone
angry,
annoys her.
Yeah, I think it's just like a...
I like the name.
It's nice, isn't it? So I'll read the back of the blurb on the Blu-ray. So whether this will be like, oh, why did I pick this? But after moving to a new school, Shoku is taunted because of her hearing impairment, principally by Shoya, who leads the class in teasing her. When Shoko is eventually forced to transfer to another school, Shoya's classmates in turn ostracize him for his cruel behaviour. Years later, as a young adult, Shoya is riddled with guilt over his humiliation of Shoko. Living an aimless life with no friends, he determines to find her and try to atone. But is it too late, and what might her reaction be?
Piss off.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I feel like everyone's always... I don't feel like everyone's always been picked on, but I know how it feels to be bullied at school, and to be fair, if my bully then wanted...
to reconcile about it, then...
I don't think I could trust them. I'd be like, even though you've changed and such, I'd find that really hard.
Sounds interesting.
It does, but I'd be telling them where to shove it. Did you have a bully at school?
Not really like one that really picked on me purposely and like pushed me in bins
Mine
or
was
anything
more
like
manipulatively bullied, but...
Yeah, I think girls are more like that, aren't they?
It wasn't like being mean, but it was still like mean enough to make me not want to go to school and be sick.
Right, yeah, to that level.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we shall see how this anime tackles that. It'll be interesting. Yeah. Right, so we're back very shortly with our thoughts on A Silent Voice.
Hey everybody, this is B-Word, one half of the Bleach Brothers podcast, coming at you each and every Sunday with my good buddy, Jake the Hater.
So be sure to join us for this episodic journey where we talk Marvel to movies, food, or anything entertainment. A Spreaker Prime podcast.
Thanks for all the dirty talk, and come back and get sanitized.
And we're back, having watched A Silent Voice. And what do you think?
It's heavy. It's like really, really heavy and deep and sad.
Sad, but not. By what was sort of described on that, the red on the back of the box, I feel like I was expecting more of an emotional punch and be like sort of sobbing by the end of it kind of thing, but I didn't feel that way about it, really. I felt sort of like the way that he sort of tackled it in the kind of like, not with the sort of the abuse or the teasing and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't linger on it too much. But at the same time, it felt like, okay, this isn't really like going, oh my god, I'm really
like
sad
I shouldn't
for
justify bullying
in
any way or condone it.
Yeah.
But I feel like bullying somebody who has a disability or is impaired in any way or shape or form is just pure nasty. Like I feel like you can pick on somebody who's similar like you, then it seems to be a little bit okay, but makes it a little bit better. She didn't know when he was there to be picked on. Obviously, she couldn't hear.
Yeah.
How more frightening is that when you don't know somebody's going to approach you who's picking on you? Like, yeah,
exactly. Like,
it's like
they're just going behind you and just shouting really loud because they're more sensitive in that regard, and stuff is like just scaring the wits out of her. And
it's like that film that we watched where she was in a cabin and I don't think she could hear.
Hush, yeah.
And
so obviously going way off topic there with that, but I feel like initially when I first saw that film, I thought it was kind of a cool concept, like a film about a girl who's hearing impairment and is being stalked by a killer that she can't detect because of the sound and stuff. Not the normal tropes. Oh, the rustling in the bushes or glass shattering or something like that. If I'm rewatching it with you, I think it was a couple of Halloweens ago or something, and it was like, it wasn't as good as I remember it being. Really, I think the concept in principle on paper sounded good, but I say, like, if I was to try and tackle it, I would probably do something maybe more like a first person view, could get you more involved in like feeling like you are that person and more that terrible. But anyway,
I feel like it did do well though, just for its eeriness, because it was so silent in a sense. Like it did kind of give you that silence of how she felt. Like,
sorry, we are still talking about the Hush film.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you said she, yeah. Okay.
So it's like that's how, like, because it was so quiet throughout. Really, there wasn't much interaction, and it was quite dull. This one obviously does kind of it makes me sad, not to the verge of tears, but it's just
that someone could be. I mean, obviously they are cartoon characters, but they're written that way. But
I think as well, it shows like her young age, and it shows you growing up and kind of developing. So it's like in what we would call primary school, I guess she was getting bullied, like
first school, yeah.
And I don't know, I just feel like children are so cruel at like that age. They're just so cruel, and they don't understand like the concept of anything. Like
that hurts person's feelings.
Or the value of money. Like, for example, at one point...
Yeah, that did annoy me a little bit, because, like, when it's tearing out those hearing aids, and, like, they cost a fortune. It's like someone snipping on your glasses.
Yeah.
And the parents, it's the parents have got to pay for the prescriptions and all that stuff.
And it's only until you're a bit older, you're like, oh, shit, that's not great, because, like, how many times have they ever forked that out for, obviously, their daughter, which needs to hear?
They said like 5 times, the teacher said. I'm thinking, blimey, that must be...
It's like, if that's £100 a pop or more, then that's like nearly either 500 or £1,000 that they're having to pay out, which they weren't forecasting for.
No, definitely not. No.
I think she's really cute when you first kind of see her. I'm going to struggle with names on this because... And I know that sounds really awful, because obviously normally we do try to... Well, you do.
Yeah. One of the things in this... Because obviously what I read at the back of the box was like, okay, that's the names, but it kind of feel like it kind of flitted between the two, like the surname and the last name
within the
film. So there's sometimes that was said. So it was a bit confusing. It's like, okay, right, your name is, I think one of the names she goes by is Nishimiya.
I did see that a lot.
Yeah,
on the
more than
subtitles.
Shoko. But it's like, well, okay, well, why did the back of the box, was it because it was just too long a name to write? I don't know. It's supposed to see how kind of going
first or last name. I think it depends on who's speaking to you and how formal it is.
I know, obviously, like san at the end of names sometimes, but then there was abbreviations of other people's names, like the character, the main guy, Shoya or Ishida was thing, but there's one of his friends he comes across later on. He calls him by another name. It's like,
yeah.
So is that like a nickname? But I didn't write that down and remember it, but because it's like, I'll just go with the character's name. But he's the one who's kind of obviously instigating all the abuse on her, pulling her ear and aids out and all that kind of stuff, and tripping her up and all that kind of.
I think he's trying to be jovial and funny, and he's thinking he's impressing people by doing that.
Yeah.
And also, I think when you're younger, if something's out of the ordinary and it's a bit strange or different, people, they don't seem to kind of get that concept. So obviously she came into school, she had a notepad, and obviously introducing herself saying, please speak to me via this notepad. I can't hear, basically, my name is.
Yeah.
And initially you seem to think, oh, well, there's one girl with the black long hair.
Yeah. She's called Ueno, I think.
And I think his lead guy really likes her. I think he fancies her at school, like in primary school.
Yeah, crush, yeah.
Yeah. And she's kind of been quite nice to her, writing in a notebook, helping her out. But it's not long-lived for some reason.
Mm-hmm. No, I forget the characters, the blonde
I do.
girl with the glasses on.
And there's so many characters within this, which it was hard to actually keep up but I guess it was like showing you elementary school or primary school versus like upper high school.
Yeah.
So it shows how your friends and everything when you're growing up changes and how you grow and develop. And
you get different friends as you grow.
You don't
as well.
have any.
Yeah. But I do like how this might sound strange, but the way it sort of like tackles the whole, or highlighting, what should I say, how let's just like a deaf person would speak in English, that's kind of like that muffled tone, but to hear like a Japanese voice doing that, it sounds, I don't know, that handled that well actually, like, like a good touch on showing that. Whether they did have someone who was deaf to do that voice, I don't know, or just faked it essentially just to make it seem like.
I'd like to think not. I'd like to think that they actually hired somebody
to do that part. Yeah.
Deaf to be able to kind of, because it did feel quite when she did speak.
Genuine, yeah. That's like, I can see where you're going with that.
But then obviously they were saying she's creepy and weird and she sounds strange, and it's like, well, she's never been able to hear how she sounds. That I feel like they'd never really kind of appreciating what she's going through. Which
all the more in a sense because obviously we've got the subtitles to know what she's saying, but then when he's going like, I can't understand you, and I think it's like, well, but obviously if it'd be different if we were Japanese and knowing that what their language of just hearing that, as opposed to like if we here in England or wherever heard a deaf person speak to us, but we I don't think we'd go like, I don't understand what you're saying. You kind of get the gist, depends how good they were with pronunciating.
They'll be a lot louder because obviously they don't
know the sound of their own the volume of their voice. Yeah,
because obviously they can't hear themselves. So
there's that.
Also, it's like a bit of a deaf tone. Like if somebody couldn't sing very well, I feel like that's kind of how their pitch would be. This will be interesting as well. Like obviously, I never think about dubbed, but it'd be quite insightful to see.
Yeah, because
the English version
with the option of the Japanese with subtitles. So I think there was an English track on that. So it would have been to maybe at another point to.
Even if it's just going to them bits that we want to see and kind of
see how that stacks up. But
it'd be interesting. Within this, you kind of hate him at the same time as kind of feel sorry for him, and it's like this weird line of like, well, you were awful, but obviously people can be redeemed and feel guilt and remorse, and you can change completely. But at the same time, you're like, I understand how other people have treated him, that you feel sorry for him too. And it's one of those hard things where I'm like, if I was her and I'd been bullied by him, I don't think I could go back on that. Once you've hurt me that badly.
Yeah.
She always wanted to be friends.
Yeah.
Like, she always really just wanted him as a friend, and I don't know why. Cause like,
maybe she saw the good in him or something. But yeah, despite all the hardship he gave her, she was always there, like wanting to just get along with him and throughout everything, despite all that he's done. And it's kind of like, why waste your time on him? But I guess that's showing the good nature of her as a character.
But also maybe it's like can we not do this anymore?
No.
Can we please just be like a surrender?
Yeah.
Like, can we not
Truce,
just be friends and just get on civilly? And I feel like she does get a rough kind of deal at school. Like, everyone's quickly turns on her and thinks she's weird, and like the friends that she did have are not true friends either that were helping her like at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you think that she's going to leave school because of the bullying and everything, because it does sound like she's going to have to move school or whatever.
But she does move school.
But there's this other girl as well that was helping her with sign language before, because they were like, oh, everyone's going to need to learn sign language. And they were like,
oh yeah, and
do I have to?
I want to learn sign language, yeah.
And
yeah,
both of them end up leaving the school, don't they?
Yeah. And so everyone's, like, oh, congratulations, you made her disappear or something. And then taking that as a bad thing and blaming Shoko.
I feel like this is the thing though, it's like when you're at school you always have to have somebody to pick on. So, that person's gone away now, so right, who's our next target? Okay. And I think that's what he was. It was like okay, you've been a big shot and now we've got in trouble with the teachers.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to turn their backs on him and blame him. And sadly it still went into like upper school, high school, where everyone kind of knew he was a bully from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So he had no friends. He didn't even get to try and get a new start. So,
yeah, you're supposed to feel sorry for him because it's like how quickly they turned on him just for that. And the fact that he's obviously toyed with the idea of suicide and stuff, and his mum's on him about that, like saying, no, please, right, you've saved all this money, but right, I'm going to burn this right now if you don't admit you will not try and kill yourself again.
But with that as well, it was because he remembers his mum having to go. Basically, his mum paid out for the hearing aids and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And he saw that actually, this is the impact I've had. Yes. My mum's had to suffer, lose money, got her earring ripped out and had a bit of a bashing. Mm-hmm. And just because that's all my fault, of how I behaved, yeah. Whereas he's being a bit remorseful. He wants to kind of not be a burden anymore. He wants to help, but at the same time, he wants to give his mum
grow up. Yeah, in that sense,
but wants to give her the money back and kind of then disappear. Sadly, because he's counting down the calendar days, isn't he? Until he kind of. I think he wanted to jump off a bridge. Is that what was going to happen?
Implied, yeah.
So it's so much going on and so much like darkness. Happiness, I think both of them want to kind of end everything, and they're so young.
Yeah, I know it's quite really sad. But in a I would say melancholy way, I suppose. Obviously, because of the visuals that it's going on to do that, it's going to obviously like slow pauses and things like you do in anime, and all the bright colours and flashy stuff that's going on.
Somewhat beautified.
Yeah.
In a sense.
From the the music score and everything, but
it's quite a touching subject, though, really, because obviously her being deaf is one of the key parts, but also I feel like it's just a good topic on bullying, how it impacts everybody overall.
Yeah, it's like if you're robbing somebody and it's like, well, they could have needed that food or that money to pay themselves, like.
You don't know anyone's background of how they feel truly.
Yeah.
Like, even if they tell you how they feel, that doesn't actually mean that's how, many
genuine,
people go, I'm fine, I'm good. And
but inside, they're hurting a lot more.
Yeah.
In terms of, I know, obviously, with the style and everything, I know there's that kind of like, I noticed a lot. I thought it was from the start, it was going to be like it's shown like in sort of like a flashback, because it had like haziness around the edges throughout, but it did have throughout the film.
I think it's like a bit of a depth of field, isn't it? It's like what kind of drawing what you should focus on instead of
a little bit, yeah. But
the background.
in terms of like what it had to offer, in terms of like why does this work as an anime? The only sort of thing that was maybe like other fantastical anime, I'll say, is the visuals of, or when he's like in high school, whatever, and everybody's got those crosses over the faces, like, right, you can't talk to them, you can't look at them, kind of thing. You feel scared and vulnerable, like, don't even approach me, type of thing.
Straight away went to you, what are these crosses?
Yeah,
and
these
you were
marks
like,
on people. So that's the only thing that feels like, right, okay, that's why it's an anime aspect of it.
As an animator, is that a stylistic choice? Is it a lazy choice? Is it?
No, I'm not saying it in that sense. I'm just saying that's a good visual to say, like, I feel like I can't talk to those people, or they're not. It becomes more apparent later on that he feels that about a lot of people, not just people in the school. I think that he can't. He feel that there's a barrier there that he can't approach.
But would you rather have them have like resting bitch face, or would you?
No.
Does the X seem to work stronger?
Maybe it would. I think because the other way you could do it is like tick once it's done, like it's all okay type of thing. But either that, or I think I've seen it in other films, maybe not necessarily anime, but like with that scrawly like pencil mark, as if like it's blurred out, like you can't make out the face kind of thing, like it's a black cloud over the face that you can't make out the features. That may have been another option, but I don't know if it's just more of a simplistic, like, no, not talking to you, you can't talk to me aspect of it. But that's like everyone in the school. And then for Shida or Shoya, whatever, he's what there's like one person he helps out. He's like, oh, thanks, because he's this guy, this chubby character.
It's a typical chubby friend, isn't it? It's like he's lovable. He really is.
The comic relief, I guess. He helps him out from some guy who wants to take his bike, and so from helping him, that he gives him his bike, but he finds it along a river or something.
Searches high and low for it, and then
that's what friends do. And then the cross of this person he hasn't really had much of contact with prior to this, it kind of falls off his face. Now he's got the confidence to, I've got a friend now.
Yeah, which I think really is nice for him, because everyone needs a friend and everyone needs some companionship.
Yeah,
it works, and I think he deserves it. He doesn't need to be carried on for this long. He feels remorseful enough to be able to be happy. I think he beats himself up a lot about what he did when he was younger, and sometimes, sadly, things like that happen. And even if you are that person that does that,
as long as you show that you're willing to change rather than just continue on with things, which in the opposite way, this is one I think like approaches say how women are kind of more catty about things.
Oh yes,
the character of Ueno is like, seems to be like she hasn't changed into her feelings towards Shoko.
I think that's also an impressive side of her. So she's wanting to impress the lead guy, and basically thinks that that's still how he feels about her, and because she quite likes him.
Yeah, because that kind of annoyed.
Assuming
she was like, really getting on my nerves now. Like, why have you not grown up? I thought women are supposed to be mature.
I think it was more jealousy than it was anything, because it was like her. Wait a minute, we used to pick on her together, and me.
Are you now friends? Oh, that's funny.
And you used to like me, and now you're not. And it's like, why are you interested? Why are you so interested in her? Like, what has she got that I haven't? She's deaf, and I'm much better. And I think it's more that the comparing side of it, and wanting him and his attention and his affection, and that's why she hates her so much. So I think it's not. I don't think we're as cruel as just blatantly pointing finger and picking on somebody. It's more of I think there's more of a deeper thing there for her, even though that's not justifiable. No, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, yeah, sure, you have feelings for him, but that still doesn't give you the right to still be like, oh, grab the hearing aid and drag it and throw it over the... I think she's thinking that's what he wants to see, and it's like he's grown
clearly
up.
Not, because like he's saying that I know he's being sheepish about like, oh, going over to her and like, oh, well, we're going to cross the road and whatever, but I don't know. That didn't, even though obviously it wasn't realistic, like live action or anything like that. But it's still that she kind of annoyed me, and
even in the Ferris wheel, she got worse.
Continued throughout. Yeah, that really kind of struck a nerve with me. Not in a good way.
She actually was the true bully in the end.
Consistently,
like, she was
throughout. You kind of had these moments with the other characters involved, but it always felt like she already had a chip on her shoulder for I say no reason, but there clearly was. But it just felt like it doesn't really justify it at this point. It's like, just get over yourself.
I do think it's funny that you said she was catty, because actually she worked in that like cat cafe and she had to give him a voucher.
Club.
Yeah. So that was quite funny the way you worded that.
That wasn't intentional. I just mean rather than just the B word, but I obviously can say that, but I'm just saying just in a more polite way.
Even though I've already said it.
No, and when just on that, like how when it said the Meow Meow Cafe, I thought it was making it seem like one of when we went to Japan, there was the maid cafes where they stand in like the French maid outfits or that kind of stuff in the streets to give you flies to come into this thing, and you feel a bit dirty going along that. And
especially because it's a pretty young girl, and it's like, oh, you're playing.
Very seedy, yeah. Obviously, I know it's not like that. It's probably a little bit more innocent than that, but some people would probably want to take it a little bit further.
Yeah, I think it is innocent, but I think it is not so innocent for Japanese culture, if that makes sense.
No. Yeah,
it's probably more innocent if it was happening in the UK, but like 10 times worse.
Like you have those like businessmen who really like those. I remember from, I think obviously it's more in that Retsuko cat thing where the cartoon characters, but they go into that, like, what do they call them?
I can't remember.
But like the baby metal type of show with like pop sensations, and they're going into these underground things, and they're really super fans of them or whatever.
I feel like it's still not 100% right, but it's. I think it's how they get their relief, which is in both ways, but I think they do work so hard.
In both ways?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, God.
Because I feel like the population is like majority men, and all they do is work for like...
No, yeah.
It's not really work-life balance there. Which is weird, because then they have like wabi-sabi and such like that, which is meant to be like, be with nature, be with one, but yet they still have this turmoil of where it is like manic living.
That's right, yeah.
Anyways, so let's go on to our lead lady. So obviously she moves to school. Quite a funny scene when he first tries to meet her, and there's this boy, which actually we find out isn't a boy. It's her sister.
Yeah.
Younger sister that's always very, very protective over her. Can see that this guy obviously was the one that bullied her previously and was like, no, don't want you to have anything to do with my sister.
Yeah.
And it's quite sweet, their relationship that they've got, but I think the little sister has a lot on her shoulders from it all, and she's very protective. But swiftly, somehow, they all become really good friends. And I think if it was just left to, obviously, the two sisters, the bully, but not the bully anymore, and the little chubby one, like, I feel like that was a good little friendship group that they had going.
You felt it was too overpopulated with other characters that I didn't really care about. These other people from the high school, like there was that ginger-haired guy, and like
I don't even know what he added.
I really don't know, and it was a bit overwhelming sometimes, and especially with that the conversation at the bridge, and it's like, right, okay, you're not friends with you, and so they had to say something and walk away.
But I don't know if it's
okay. I don't really care.
Is it because that's what high school's like? Like, you do have a lot of people, like, if you think about it, that you have to be friends with. Like, you've got a full class of people that are the same age as you. Right. When do you ever go anywhere that you have the same people, same age? Like, in a working environment, they're not going to be the same age.
No.
And I think it's one of those things where high school, there is loads of people that you could be friends with and mingle with. And that's why it's kind of showing it. And I get why it's portraying it that way. But at the same time, it is hard to kind of keep up and see what value characters add.
I'd say a lot of the side ones don't really feel like they really did a great
Only like
deal.
the little chubby guy. Like, and he's not... To me, he's a main character. He seems to bring... Obviously, you've got the mum and both mums. They need to be in it, but the rest of them, like...
You know, he sort of reminded me of, in the sense of Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where he's like super protective over Jake.
Yeah.
In that sense.
He's lovely.
He's like, no, you can't, you gotta do that other ginger-haired guy, and it's like, no, you can't even, like, you have to come through me to approach him or touch him or kind of thing. There's a bit of ridiculousnly of it, but
yeah, it's like probably his first best friend, so he's like really protective.
Yeah. And with the whole, I think the younger sister of Shoko is Yuzuru, I think. I kind of get the sense that things are, obviously they got the mother and they have the grandma, but I feel like not even with how things are not so happy at home. Probably like a struggle. I can understand probably the stresses of having, obviously, with somebody having to care for someone who's got like an impairment of such. But the mother seems really like, oh, I hate the world kind of aspect of it, which is probably a sort of believable in that sense. Would you say?
I think it's a knock-on effect though as well,
but for the kids, it feels a bit like, oh no, you're getting maybe abused or just anger. Frustration taken out on maybe a tad, but it's not their fault. Certainly not the younger sisters. She's just trying to do right by her.
Exactly, and I think it's not even, like, you're born that way, it's not your fault, but I guess financial struggles are obviously implemented there, and I think they are even with the guy who bullied her as well. Like, you can tell there's a bit of a struggle on both parties, but I feel the girl that's obviously our main lead, she feels responsible that she's the issue, she's the problem, and that if she just disappears, then none of this would have ever happened, and everyone would have got along and everything would have been fine. And like my parents wouldn't be struggling, my sister would be happy, I wouldn't be a burden to anybody. And it must be awful to feel that way when really she isn't. She's actually one of the most nicest characters, because she's always so forgiving. Like, she does actually say, does the character that you despise, like, why are you always saying sorry? You constantly apologise for everything.
Yeah.
I feel like that's me sometimes.
I know, I did think that when that was going on, it's like, yeah, you do sometimes. You're too apologetic for
my own good
things sometimes. I'll admit sometimes even I say sorry just for the out of habit sometimes as well. But I
think it's instilled in you to be polite.
Just manners don't cost nothing, but sometimes it's maybe not justified just for the sake. Even if I'm not in the wrong, like, bumping into or I'm in the way of somebody. I'm sorry. Even though it's just sorry guess to avoid confrontation. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, even I apologise to inanimate objects, like if I bash into them, and I'm like, oh, sorry, and I'm like, why am I apologising?
Yeah. One thing I thought I was sort of going to get from this, though, only because there's a sequence where Shoko is admitting to our lead guy, Shida.
You're doing very good with names. Doing better than me.
That she loves him.
Do you know, this is funny because literally I was just going to bring this up. This was my next point.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
She does it in trying to voice it, but he's like, oh, I can't understand what you're saying, and he looks up, oh, do you mean the moon?
Yeah.
I don't know why she wouldn't have done it the sign language way.
I feel like she wanted to say it and be kind of like expressive with it instead of way. Kind of.
But I don't know. I feel like if I get that, but I feel like that would have maybe been more impactful if she had done it and he like going like doing that sort of like realization what she's saying with that, because it's obviously like almost like a pause to take it in what you've just said and then go, oh my god, and either like big wide eyes or something, and the realization of
Who's
that.
Making this more romantic than it was, eh?
Because that doesn't come into effect later on in the film, because I thought that he would either do sign language or he would actually say, or he'd like, oh, I understand what you meant to say, and then
it never comes back around.
I love you, but that sadly we don't really get that, which I kind of wish that we kind of did.
I feel like it's kind of implied though at the end with what he does for her, that he does love her.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, but I feel like, to voice it, that you should certainly, you always saying to me like, oh, tell me that you loved me, kind of.
I do, but actions do speak louder than words.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like, I'd rather you show affection than say it.
It's a fact.
Yeah. Why?
No, normally. Well, do you mean like by giving you a hug? Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's affection. But I feel like that is quite... I don't know, it does... You're right. I feel like I like this film, but at the same time, I'm a bit like... It went on for too long.
Oh, it really did. I feel like this could have been hour and a half at most. It did go on for 2 hours and then some.
And we didn't even break it up, which I was surprised at. And I did all right, actually. Hoping to get through
Well
it
done.
all. Thank you.
For staying up, not falling asleep, yeah.
I didn't fall asleep. I was shocked. I don't know if it's just been balancing work and life and everything that's been going on lately. It just seems like Sophie normally falls asleep through a film now if I'm not writing a note about it. I don't know if it's I've gone 30 and that's it now, I just fall asleep, or if it is just we've had a lot, because I think it's life's just got back to normal now, hasn't it, really, with everything, and it's like socialising, working, balancing house
fine
and
balance, yeah, all that stuff.
Exactly.
I feel like it could have gotten to points a bit quicker, really.
Yeah.
I feel like what the box said about, like, years later he's trying to, like, find her.
I thought they'd be more grown up.
I thought there was going to be more of a I'm going to, like, search her out kind of thing, rather than just almost like immediately, oh, there she is.
Yeah, because me and you didn't actually know if when he met her, if it was real or not, or if it was just a dream, and he
like
hadn't met her.
A flash forward or something like that. Or yeah.
Because it was a little bit at the beginning, like, oh, here's what he is now, and then, oh, this is him younger.
Yeah.
So it did flit a little bit. But I feel like the remorse should have come a little bit when he was a bit older, so like in his 20s. Let's say he'd graduated school.
Yeah, when it made it sound like years later, as if like he had almost grown up, like to a proper, like, 21 plus adult kind of thing.
That's what I assumed it would have been, which I think it would have helped because you wouldn't have had all that school drama still.
Yeah, I think that might have worked a bit better, and then obviously added more value for the obviously length of it was. Say you went from first school, then high school, and then after the fact, young adult, and then that kind of like sequence of events really to reflect on things. I don't know.
I think it would have been easier to follow, and you wouldn't have had as many characters, which would have helped.
Yeah, perhaps. Obviously, it does come back around with the whole thing about like suicide attempt from Shoko. On that, where it's like she goes for a festival, she's dressed in the Camino and everything, and she goes back to the apartment.
She says she needs to study or something like that. Yeah. Even though everyone's having a lovely time, she can feel the fireworks through her body.
It's a nice touch. Yeah.
And you can see like the vibrations in her tea. But yeah, it's quite bittersweet, this moment is, because it's like, well, you're having a nice time. You've got all your loved ones around you that care. And yet you still feel
so inadequate to do that. Yeah, I felt, I'm just saying, shouldn't have done it at all, but like more justified if that she was, like an end of a rope type of thing with like, oh, there's nobody, like nothing on that reflected that there was nobody, like nobody loves me or cares about me. Where she, was still getting, maybe with the Ueno character was really just chipping away at her, like just constantly or something. That was more of
the fairground scene was unpleasant, and obviously her sister let her take the camera in, and basically she was slapping her around saying, I hate you, you're awful, you creep me out, you're weird, and was being really awful. But at the same time, if that was the case and she didn't have her foundation of her family and obviously her other friends, then I'd get it more. But I guess at that age you're so vulnerable, and things like that seem such more of a bigger deal than when you're a bit older. I've noticed that, like, when you're older, you don't really care as much as what people think.
No, you don't. Just get used to it a little bit more. But
it's like, well, as long as I'm happy, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, why should I care? But so from this, that Ishida then goes, obviously tries to save her, good strength to pull her up, but then ends up falling. He in turn falls instead. And is ended up hospitalised. And then Gwen is then like, oh, it's your fault, he's in this position, and start beating up on her. And it's like, go.
Well, it's not really, because he wanted to save her, so that two to tango, he knew the implications of what he was doing. I think also because
I don't think he could handle that guilt of like, oh, she's may or may not be killing herself because of me.
But I think if she
that
had...
would destroy him. So it's like, that's why he had to attempt to save her. But obviously he didn't intend to, like, I'm going to fall instead of you. But that's just how it happened.
No, but I think if she had killed herself, he would be swiftly after, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh my god, that's it. I've done this, so now I've got to. That's definitely got to thing, because I can't take this anymore. This pressure that he has on himself for that.
I think also for his lead lady, she has a grandma that passes away as well, so that could be a big impact on it. Because I think the grandma was quite a light-hearted person that brought the mum back round.
Yeah.
And obviously we see and witness the funeral of that as well, which is quite a challenging part. And I feel like all of this is quite just dark and sad. It's like quite intense, hard to follow, and
it's dark subject matter, I'll say. Not dark as in dark
visuals.
and moody. Yeah, no, that's kind of like a colourful, sugary coating to it.
But the subject matter, like we're about suicide, literally that's the topic we're discussing, and bullying, and the fact that somebody's
struggling with mental trauma on those aspects, and
also somebody who is deaf and is unable to hear and getting bullied for something that's not their fault. They've either been born with it or it's happened over a couple of years. It just feels like it's really hard hitting. So luckily, he seems to survive, doesn't he? I think it's weird because they both have a joint dream where he's like, oh, I'm going to end it all. And she's like, no, don't. And then magically he wakes up. It sounds awful when I'm saying it this way. And they run to each other and they're like, they exactly know where they're going to meet. It's
almost like the spot on the bridge almost,
feeding the koi. Even they call them cape.
Magic carp.
Trust you to have to put Pokemon somewhere in this anime.
Well, you said carp, so cape. Anyway.
And yet again, you kind of wait for the I love you within this scene.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. This was what building to, like in a romance film was like, oh, I've got to tell you how I feel type of thing. But
it doesn't happen. I do think as well that it's quite cute because the sister takes all the photos down of what she used to like take pictures of dead animals. And I think it was kind of because she knew her sister had suicidal thoughts.
But it didn't help the matters, did it?
But she was kind of saying she was doing it to show her what it would look like and to stop her. That's why she was doing it. So instead she had to get rid of them all. And I think then it kind of just shows back to them going to school together where everyone's like, oh my God, that's the guy that saved this girl. And then everyone's like, oh, he's a hero. And I feel like this is what annoys me a little bit about the film. Like, oh, now because he's done something good, everybody wants to talk to him. And just how shallow people can be. Like, you could speak to him anyways and make your own judgment. And he doesn't look up and then eventually all the X's just
fall off his face. Then that sense of relief that he can feel like, right, everyone's accepting him. I mean, nobody's judging me anymore. I've taken this too much to heart now, and it's got a sense of relief because he's like, obviously, we're breaking down and crying and everything. It's just kind
I just feel like you shouldn't give an S about
a crap.
Yeah, about everybody that they think. Why care what anyone thinks? Like, I know it's so hard, and I do, but to that level, it's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not, but you could argue because he's still very young that he gets and everything, but. I mean, he's an anime character, so is it that thing, or you just to take that away as a message to yourself, like put yourself in that position and just don't stress about what people think too much.
Yeah, because he's wasting his life caring what everyone else thinks of him. Like, I know it matters when your loved ones and everything like that, but people you don't know.
Who try and thinking that they've got an opinion about you when they may not even know you at all. So don't be worrying too much about those type of people. You just do you, basically.
Yeah.
But don't be. That doesn't mean be an asshole about things that's still frowned upon, of course. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really sorry because I know you were doing this like really, really heartfelt speech, but it was a finger. He was doing a finger waggle, like, no, don't do it. And he's like,
do it. I know it's not visual, but don't do it. You can hear it down the microphone, pointing a finger at you people. Just.
I'd hope that we don't have anyone like that listening to us.
What do you mean?
Like somebody who would be like that. Anyways, I'd like to think we don't draw that kind of.
No, I don't think so. I really don't. But before we go to the scoring, then, do you think then what I was saying before about this being an anime, does the storyline work in this medium of this, or would it make more sense if this was just told as if it was live action?
I think...
Would it be, again, do you think it would be more impactful or feel more real?
It probably would. I probably wouldn't enjoy it, though, as much, just because it would feel more hard-hitting and it'd be a bit too much, whereas this kind of is visually pleasing, which makes it a little bit softer with the story.
Doesn't hit so hard. Obviously, what it's tackling is hard, but not in a way like it's... you can sort of like brush it off a little bit more.
Yeah, sadly.
In a sense. Yeah.
But still not as much. It's still emotional and it gets the topic across well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be 2 hours long.
No, I really don't think it does.
Which I'm surprised, because I know I gripe about an hour and a half film being perfect. But this, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's a tricky one to kind of judge and score. But I know you have to score first. So I'm not giving too much away.
Right. Yeah. For my score, I'm going 7.5. The 0.5 is down for more the visuals, really. Like we just said about the length of it, could really be trimmed down to tell a story a bit more concise. It did get a bit bogged down as the film went on, for that fact. I think the first hour was going alright, but then, like I say, as it going on and on, I think, okay, let's get to a point where we can sort of resolve the issues here or whatever, and all this kind of flitting between characters that I don't really care too much about. Really, all these other side characters, like, why am I investing my time in you? Why should I care about you? And all these other annoyances I've kind of like pointed out when I've been talking about it. But in terms of a style, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the stylistic choice that went into it. It's no problem with that. Of course, it looks really pretty, but I feel like just a tight story. But obviously for Japanese storyline structure, that's maybe that for that market, it probably makes more sense. But for a sort of Western thing, I feel like just tighten up a bit more, I think, really. Not saying enjoy it for that, but for what I watched, but I'm not like, oh, can't wait to see that again. And
I get you. I was going to just ask you that question. Yeah. Would you be like willing to watch it again?
I wouldn't be like, I'll never watch it again. But I'm just...
It wouldn't be like that was amazing, I can't wait to see it again.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's the thing with a film. It should leave you to want to rewatch it. Or, it should, like we were on about our favourite films, and like we love Love Actually, or like my favourite Singing in the Rain, and even then it's like it should either bring some joy, or yours is, I don't know what you get with The Shining. But it should bring you something
that wants rewatchability for things that like you can't wait to see that scene again, or this song,
and I think
or
the past two animes you've given me, I haven't had that, sadly. I feel like Snow is a bit harsh on the Grave of the Fireflies, and it is really visually pleasing. Not saying Studio Ghibli isn't, but obviously this one was a lot darker, so I can't say it was as picturesque. Yeah, sure. If that makes sense.
No, I get you. Yeah.
So I think I'm agreeing with you actually on this one. 7.5 is like the score. It is too long. I think the topic is valid to be there, and it is a piece where it should be, but also was it one of those things where it, like we said, it could have been done a bit differently and it might have worked a lot better.
Different approach, yeah.
Probably, I think it flit a little bit at the beginning, which was confusing because you didn't know that that's what it was doing, and it was like, is this a dream? Has he met her? And it was a little like, and then like you said with the names, and I think maybe for a Japanese culture,
I don't know if that was maybe the subtitles issue.
It might have been a bit better if you could speak Japanese and you could understand it.
Yeah, for certain. Yeah.
But not one that I've fallen in love with.
No, but glad I've seen, because as I say, like the higher ratings on it, but I don't quite agree with those high ratings, unfortunately. Such.
I get it. I do. I think sadly, I'm hoping next one, because we've only got one more now, haven't we?
For this month, yeah.
Yeah. And then May's done. So come on, please, because we've only had one really knockout one so far. So 2 out of 2 ain't bad. I love how you're already smirking because it's the Patreons to vote as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Swiftly tied that in there, didn't I?
Yeah, so the patrons will get to vote next episode once after this comes out. So if you would like to have your name shouted out, like Sophie will do in a minute, and
I love how this has become my job.
and get to vote on a film we watch once a month, then you go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers, like our good people.
Which are Paul. So we have Mark from the podcast 100 Things We Learned from Film. I think he was one of our very first early guests that we kind of went on. We started, we've been whoring each other out lately, haven't we? Joining people's podcasts and having people on ours. But I think he was one of the very, very first. I think we've had a couple more beforehand, but...
I know we went on his before...
We haven't had him on ours. Oh, no, we have.
Yes,
I lie.
Yes, we have.
I just trying to forget what we covered because it was that crap. That's fine.
RoboCop. Yeah. It's not that crap, but...
yeah. Anyways, Swiftly moving on. We have Ben from Film Vloggers. I think they're still on their travels at the moment. I'm getting, jealous of where they've been for the past couple of times. And still persisting to do podcasts while they're travelling. Amazing. So we've got my mum, which I'm sure she'll ask which film I want to pick. Depending on if she knows. And we have got our friend Jonesy, who we lovingly had us over at his, obviously when this airs, so he'll be like, yeah. But yeah, it was really nice. We can't wait to have him on one of our Halloween, or you said we're having him before, specials.
Mm-hmm.
He loves scary films. So if you want to find him, he's on Instagram under the handle Weight Lost Jonesy. And lastly, we have Nico, who is from the Good, the Bad and the Weird podcast. He's recently joined our little family, and they've recently been on one of our podcasts.
Yep, that was for Voices.
Very good one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very detailed about all kind of serial killers.
Yeah,
so I feel like they would be good on a Halloween special for sure.
Or a true crime
podcast. Yeah, I feel like what I'm trying to do is copy Ben from Film Vloggers.
Mm-hmm.
And do it where he did that Christmas special, and you could just do your Halloween special but invite everybody on it, and I'll just do a Fiona and go, I'll pick which ones I want to go. I want to see. So Halloween I'll just be like, yeah, I'm out. Paul just has loads of random guests.
Yep, that's everybody we've got. So if you want to join the family, as I say, you can follow the link in the show notes, or and just find us there. Also, you get me shouting you out now apparently, because that's my new job. And I think I do it better than Paul anyway, so I at least talk about you all. Yeah, good at that. Thanks. Don't shut up, do I? And if you want to check out some other episodes, you can do so over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And we'd also really appreciate any 5-star reviews on any of those platforms as well, because that helps us get more listenership, and ratings help grow the podcast. So so other people can listen to us. Why not? And if you haven't already and you do want to follow us on social media, we are out there. So we're under the handle SP_filmviewer on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. So hit those like buttons and follow and all that jazz. If you haven't already, of course. Because, if you unlike, then it'll be unlike us. Is that a wrap? That's a wrap. We did it. Yay. Yay. I think that was hard. That one was just talking about it's hard. Alright, okay. So better job next time, patrons. No pressure. Well, it's more of a pressure on me in a sense, because I've got to think of it. But I know what I know. This one technically, and it's not my fault. You put it on your list. I just picked it. Anyway. I'm blaming you still. Of course. Yeah. The woman is always right. So they say. Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we will speak to you next time for the finale of this year's anime. Speak to you next time. Take care now. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.